Hey, what's up YouTube? Little man with a big opinion here. Today's video, haven't done a prepping video in a while, and just felt like I needed to get another one out there. For those of you that don't know, me and my girlfriend are about one carload away from moving residencies. And just like give you an idea, I drive a Nissan Versa. It's a little four-door sedan, and you know, we've only got like one carload worth of stuff in the old apartment. Finally upgraded, got 2-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhome, and I'm really excited because now I actually have a real workspace. I don't have a 55 square foot closet. I mean, it's a huge closet, but I actually have, a bedroom that I can, properly store my preps and actually set up like a little recording area. But we're going to do it on the phone because I drive way too much, and it's a perfect time, to get these thoughts out of my head and onto the YouTube to help other preppers. So the topic of today's video is the top 3 things a prepper should be preparing for. And so, some of these things will vary from person to person, and I'll explain why as, I go along in the video. So, the number one thing that a prepper should prepare for is the most likely, natural disaster for your area. So, like I said, this is the first one that will, have variables for different people. So, for instance, like the example I'm going to use is myself. I live in Corpus Christi, Texas. I'm probably only 8 miles from a beach. So, the most likely thing that I have to deal with is a hurricane. I lived in Corpus Christi when, Harvey went through, and at the last minute, it kind of curved up and hit Port Aransas and then headed on its way to Houston. In Corpus Christi, we still got, in the double digits of rain in a 2 or 3 day time span. So associated with a hurricane is flooding, power outages, high force winds. And so for that instance, prepping for me, I didn't have to do much prepping because I lived on a 2nd floor apartment back then. And so, I had my 5 or 6 days of water. I had some battery powered, entertainment and board games and food. But my apartment complex didn't lose its power. Like I said, we got extremely lucky and the storm curved up north at the last minute. It only gave us rain. And so, that's for me for a hurricane. Now where we're living, we do have part of our residence on the 1st floor. I have sandbags. I purchased about 200 of them. They just stay empty, sitting in the closet, and if there's any possibility of a hurricane coming through, I'll, fill some of those up and stack them up in front of the door. And I have half of the boards needed for boarding up windows and doors. The townhome we live in, thankfully the people that own the place, it's in their lease to provide that kind of stuff in case of a natural disaster. But just in case they either run out of boards because they're a fairly large realtor company, or their idea is we've got enough boards for 2/3 of our places, and we'll just go get the rest of the boards when we have to. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Eventually, with funds, I'll hit the point where I have enough boards for the entire place, even if they were to bring us boards. But so for us, like, that's preparing for a hurricane. If you have to prepare for a tornado, having a low place like a root cellar or something like that will be good for you. if it's just flooding and like you live close to a river basin or something, then it's flooding. If like I said, if you live on the West Coast, it could be they're not really hurricanes, tsunamis for you. You live up north, it could be getting snowed in a blizzard. All those different things are a natural disaster that you're going to have to deal with. And for your area, you should be prepared for your area of natural disasters. I can do, an individual little series on how to prepare for hurricanes, tornadoes, and I'll just talk about every different natural disaster. So the second thing that preppers need to prepare for, and this one is for every single person in the United States, regardless of if you're a prepper or not, and that is, and there's debris in the road. Someone lost a wheel. Ooh. Is some type of, economic disparity, or like a recession, or, God help us, like another depression level event. And like I said, this is for every single person. I read the article after I saw someone talking about it on YouTube. It was like 58% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings, or no money for savings for any type of issue. And it was like something like 45% if you went without like a week's worth of your paycheck, then you wouldn't be able to pay your bills or something like that. So the idea of living paycheck to paycheck is, kind of scary, because you rely on that source of income, and if it disappears, then you could be screwed. And so for this instance, they say having $1,000 in an emergency fund, whether it's an ER visit, a car fix, getting laid off from your job, that's, a perfect start. And the perfect example for me, my check engine light turned on a few days ago, and I went and got it, read, and said something about, I think it was like a camshaft timing issue. Went ahead and changed the oil early in my car, even though it still had about another 5,000 miles worth of drive time for the oil. And hopefully the light will turn off in a couple of days. And if it doesn't, then they say it's about a $100 to $300 fix. And so myself, I've got, a security fund for instances like this. And for example, if I took that security fund like off the tables, and I just had to rely on like the paychecks that I have, it would take me about 9 days of saving a little bit more money than I normally save each month before I could get that issue fixed. And so that's not an instance you want to be in. And so the whole idea of maybe a bunch of people get laid off, or the value of the dollar gets worse, and now your $1,000 paycheck is only buying you $800 worth of stuff, or you got your hours cut, and like I said, you're living paycheck to paycheck, and you've been working 50 hours for a year and a half each month, or each week, and now the company can only afford to pay you for 40 hours of work a week. And so, like I said, the $1,000 is a perfect start for this. It kind of dips into other levels of preparedness, for not just like the economic level, but at the same time of having some cash on hand or in reserves. My food preps that I use for my normal SHTF fall into this category as well. I'm in between 3 and 6 months. I haven't calculated in a while. I'll do a food prep video here shortly. But having that much food on hand, I would probably get tired of eating rice and beans or oatmeal or, the different foods that I have. But I'm not going to starve. I'm not going to go hungry. And so if some type of, economic disaster happened within your life, and, go back to the instance of you went from working 50 hours a week to 40 hours a week, the food preps would mean you wouldn't have to worry about putting food on your table, for 3 to 6 months until you could either pick up, more work, or your company can go back to doing, 50 hours a week. Maybe it was like a union job or something, and you just finished your big project, and you had to wait till the next big project. So, that one, it's kind of generic. That's every person should have some money saved for, an emergency. And so the last option is number 3, and this one I'm just kind of adding in there. It doesn't really have a theme to it, and like I said, it's just kind of a throwaway, and that's, if you're getting into prepping because you have this terrible fear that something's going to happen, then you should probably prepare for that fear, because it'll help, with you mentally and emotionally. And so, like, when I first got into prepping, the thing that, really, sparked my interest in prepping, and for the longest time, I seriously thought this was the only thing that was ever going to happen. I was like 13, and The Walking Dead had just came out, and it was one of the first, zombie shows that was continuous, and it showed this entire group, like, barely scraping by. They're always managing to find food in houses, or, they can grow their food, but then they get kicked out of their place, and then they're on the road again. And I told myself, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm having to, a lot of the times walk, but sometimes, drive across the United States, always in search of food and a better home. And so I started preparing for a zombie apocalypse. And it wasn't until I was about 17 or 18 that I seriously sat down and looked at what I had gathered, which, in 4 years, but still being in high school and partially middle school, it was maybe $1,000 worth of stuff. But, that's what started the entire prepping. The perfect example for me for this is people that watch Doomsday Preppers, and someone on that show convincing you of this minute possibility of some massive disaster happening. So if you think a solar flare is going to fry all the electronics in the world, prepare for a solar flare. If you think a good-sized meteor is going to hit the United States and, destroy the entire West Coast, say it only goes up to like halfway through the United States, prepare for something like that. If you think, the axes on the Earth, like the polar axis, are gonna flip, and it's gonna, make like the entire climate change or whatever, like, it's kind of a throwaway, and it kind of goes along the lines of the natural disaster for your area. It could be a natural disaster that you think is the worst thing that's ever going to happen to you. It could be you live within, 5 miles of 3 nuclear reactors. Or, whatever. Whatever that you think is the worst thing that could possibly happen in some type of SHTF situation, prepare for it. It's going to help you mentally. It's going to help you emotionally. And part of preparing for something like that, it's going to help you with the other 2 categories that I talked about. And any prepping is good prepping. FEMA says 72 hours. I say 2 weeks at a minimum. If you want to, believe in Canadian Prepper, I forget what statistic he found, but it was like, if something happened that was sustained for like 6 months to a year, then like 80% of the United States would die. in that time period. So, yeah, I think that's going to wrap this video up. If you have a specific natural disaster that you're preparing for, you can definitely, leave stuff in the comment section, like different things you've, gathered for supplies that you think are the most important. You can criticize me if you want to in the comments. You can get a little discussion going. Maybe it'll, help me come up with an idea for the next video. Please like the video if you enjoyed the content. And if you are enjoying, whoa, words are hard. If you're enjoying what I'm doing with the channel, then please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so your smart device will send you a little notification when I upload a new video. That's going to be it for today, guys, and I'll catch you later.